So when I was a music student, I lived on a floor with a bunch of other music students, many of whom were brass players. And one night we were talking about Mahler, and I remember them asking me which Mahler symphony I liked. And when I told them it was the fourth, they all sort of collectively groaned and grumbled and said, "Oh, the only one that doesn't have trombones and tubas." It was such a disappointment to them because, as we all know, very few composers know how to pull out all the stops and let a fortissimo rip like Mahler does. But the Fourth Symphony is an exception to that rule. It is a quieter piece. It's certainly a piece of more manageable length. And I was surprised to learn that the Fourth Symphony was not a success when it was premiered. People had expected the grandiose, loud, philosophical type of work that was represented by the First through the Third Symphonies. So hearing this lighter, shorter, more classically proportioned work was a little bit too much to handle. The story of this piece is a bit unusual in that the very first part of it that was written was the final movement. It's a setting of a song from Des Knaben Wunderhorn, which was a volume of German folk poetry. The poem is entitled Das himmlische Leben, Life in Heaven, and it is the portrait of a child in heaven and what that child sees. Basically, it's to show that life in heaven is so much better than we could have ever imagined it would be on earth. The scherzo movement is the only movement in this piece, besides the final one, that has a title. Alma Mahler writes that it was based on a painting that Mahler saw. It's a self-portrait by Arnold Böcklin entitled Death Strikes Up, in which the image of Death playing a violin is right behind him. And how Mahler illustrates this musically is that the concertmaster of the orchestra is asked to play a separate violin, which is tuned a whole step up. And Mahler asks that the concertmaster play very aggressively and in a countrified manner. So it's a bit obnoxious as a movement. The third movement is a particular favorite of mine. If I had the choice of any Mahler slow movement to listen to, I would always choose this one. It has a sense of the infinite, of gentility, and the best of humanity. And I was very cheered to learn that Mahler considered this his greatest slow movement. This is one of the few Mahler symphonies that does not end in a blaze of glory. The poem that is set in the fourth movement is so gentle and so utopian that Mahler really has no choice than to let the work just sort of fade out into silence. It's as if he's saying, with this journey into silence, I am reintroducing you to the world you live in. You'll have to wait for the heavenly part.